I'm thinking today we talk about something from the 90s, but instead of talking about the usual suspects, let's dive into the strange and obscure. We have plenty of options to pick from, but there's only one anime in particular that is just overflowing with culture. What is Eat Man? Well, let me tell you what it's not. The manga. Nah, actually, let's save that point for later. The anime is a nonsensical love letter to style over substance. After just rewatching all of the episodes for the sake of this review, I can safely say I have no idea what the show is about.
My name is Jeff.
There is no overarching story here. Every episode, except for the last two, is completely self-contained, but they all do follow the same basic formula. The world's greatest mercenary, Bolt Crank, shows up to a random location. We meet the girl of the week, which leads Bolt to act like Bolt. Then you throw in a little bit of philosophy and end the whole affair with a pretty shot of a destroyed airship still flying high in the sky. That's it, that's the show. Okay, that's a bit harsh. The show is a series of 20-minute vignettes that take place all over this vaguely futuristic, kind of dystopian world. Some episodes are better than others, I'll give Eat Man that, but I'd be lying if I told you I like this anime for the plot. Now, the main reason I watched Eat Man was because of the style. I love the 90s aesthetic. To this day, when you say anime, the image that pops into my head isn't Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, or My Hero Academia. It's Neon Genesis Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, and Ghost in the Shell. So many anime from the 90s managed to pull off this beautiful, grungy, and dirty look that we sadly don't see too much of these days. It's all bubblegum designs and soft boys. I for one, am disgusted, but I still watch it anyway.
Nagatoro Season 2.
But back to Eat Man, in terms of visual flair, I am blinded by the light. Which is weird for me to say because most of the show is super dark. And I don't mean the tone, I mean it's just straight up night for most of the series. Massive W for the lo-fi crowd. I've heard some people say that the show looks pretty average for the era, and I mean maybe that's true, but I guess I just prefer that era, so average then is pretty good now in my book. Some of the backgrounds might be basic, but man, does the lighting of the environments and the shading of the characters really leave an impression on that brain of yours that's still wondering why this guy is eating random bits of metal. Now's as good a time as any to get into the man of the hour, Bolt Crank, the world's greatest mercenary. What makes him so great, you ask? Well, he can do just about anything. Need a bodyguard? He's your guy. Not a fan of your government? Consider it toppled. What about my messy gamer pad? He'll have it cleaner than a Christian Minecraft server. Yeah, but here's what you're really asking. Who is this silent, sensual, silver Sigma? Picture Spike from Cowboy Bebop, but replace that Bruce Lee inspiration with Ryan Gosling. Bolt is definitely an individual. He's this literal giant who can eat just about anything and then replicate it in his right hand. He's pretty intimidating when he's not acting like a total goofball. Now, I'm sure you expect some amazing fight sequences with Bolt's interesting powers on full display, but that never happens. There's like maybe 3 genuine action scenes across this 12-episode adventure. If I didn't already use that RVB joke in my Kubikiri video, I'd put it here. What you may have picked up on from the clips I've been showing is that the animation is pretty stiff. Most of the time, characters won't really move all that much while they go on talking scene after scene. And yet, I honestly never found myself bored with what I was seeing. I like the minimal movement, and the reused animation too. The show, in my opinion, knows how to use its visuals effectively. Very reminiscent of my favorite scenes from Evangelion. Granted, things get a little out of hand in episode 6, which plays the same loop of a little girl running for 2 minutes straight. Twice. In a 20-minute episode. Yeah, that means a quarter of this episode is just this. But this is the exception to the rule. Actually, the very next episode has some really great animation for no reason. I guess that's one way to use the budget. Oh my god, this really is like Evangelion. And that's actually a pretty good segue to talk about all the symbolism in the show. You got some Christian symbols, and Vishnu gets name dropped, and yeah, there's probably some other stuff too, but here's the deal. None of it makes any sense. Personally, I think it's nothing more than window dressing, but don't let me stop you from reading into it as much as you want. That is genuinely my favorite thing to do in basically any show I watch. I mean, it's fun to dissect certain lines or figure out the hidden meaning of different scenes. Believe me, I do it all the time. It's just that in this case, I don't really see a point in me detailing my galaxy brain understanding of the series. I mean, I could tell you that Bolt Crank bears the mark of Cain and is forced to roam the earth as punishment for his ancient sin. I could tell you this ability to consume and replicate things is a testament to his slight against the Almighty. After all, the Lord created light from darkness, something from nothing, and yet Bolt dares to mimic the most sacred name and fashion mere copies of God's creation. This is an age of science, this is an age of reason, and yet Bolt suffers daily for his transgressions. Try as he might, he finds no salvation through the work of his hand, and so he continues to walk from town to town with rose-colored glasses, seeking happiness in a world without God.
In a perfect world, men like me would not exist. But this is not a perfect world.
Could you provide some evidence for your I made it up. You listen to the opening song and you tell me the show's deep. And on that note, have you been listening to this amazing OST? You got a little something for everyone. Some songs make you feel like a gunslinger from the Old West eating beans out of a can and dying of syphilis, while others take you to the future, or the 80s, I guess, so you get some nice trippy synth tracks. E-Man even has something for you mature and refined, educated types. The unique tracks perfectly complement Eat Man's eccentric style. And now, I've put off this last point for long enough, so let's get into the controversy. Eat Man is based off the manga of the same name, but the similarities between the two begin and end right then and there. Other than Bolt being kind of the same character, the anime has nothing to do with the manga. So, as you can imagine, when the Eat Man anime released, fans of the manga weren't too happy. But luckily for them, just 1 year after the anime release, Studio Deen pumped out a sequel anime called Eat Man 98, which adapted a handful of stories directly from the manga. But here's the thing, I don't really care for Eat Man 98. By every objective metric, 98 is the better version. It's closer to the manga, there's more action, it actually makes sense, but I have to be honest, it just doesn't hit the same. Eat Man 98 lacks that artistic touch that made me fall in love with the show to begin with. It's not that 98 is bad or anything like that, it's just that it's average. And being average is the worst thing a show can be. I mean, I'd much rather watch a dumpster fire that's so bad it's actually amazing than something that's just average. And I'm not even convinced Eat Man is bad. It's just different. And that's probably due to the director, Koichi Mashimo. Now, I confess I haven't seen too much of his stuff, just this, Captain Tyler, and oh, look at that, he did Halo Legends. Oh. Yeah, that's him alright. Anyways, Mashimo didn't come back to direct 98 since he was busy setting up his own studio. I think that the broken airship that shows up in every episode is the perfect representation of the show. It defies all known rules, it's a complete mess, and it's still soaring through the sky. I can't really justify it, but for whatever reason, it just works. At least for me. Now, I wasn't a fan of the manga, I've never read it, so I don't really feel like I have a right to discount the complaints of the manga fans. I mean, I'd be pretty annoyed if one of my favorite series finally got an adaptation and they completely disregarded the source material. But I am still a fan of FMA 2003, so I'm not gonna prefer one version over the other just because it more closely follows the source material. But whatever, I'm curious what you guys think. Are there any fans of the manga out there? Are there any fans of the anime out there? Either version. You know, it's weird, for such an obscure show, you can actually watch both versions on Crunchyroll. But still no FMA 2003. Truly, these are confusing times. Well, that's all I got this time around, so until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Volt, and when are we getting the live-action remake with Ryan Gosling?